no one has really done climate transition before. We don't have the sort of manual for how this is done for Handelsbanken. So
hello and welcome to the CSO Impact Podcast, where we talk with leaders in sustainability, and we're discussing how we can work in a way that makes a positive impact on the planet. I'm your host, Harald Neidhardt, and in this episode we talk to Catharina Belfrage Sahlstrand, Chief Sustainability and Climate Officer at Handelsbanken, and one of the authors in our book, Leadership for Sustainable Futures. She's also one of the special mention winners of the CSO Awards in Europe 2024 that we highlighted in Davos last January. And so who knows, maybe you're back in the top 100 coming out next month. So, Catharina, very good to see you. And how are you today?
thank you, Harald. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm good, thank you. It's been a good week, and we keep ourselves busy, but I'm well. You too?
Awesome. I'm very well. Yes, exactly. We came back from New York, so there was a lot of excitement in the air, and now we're back on the road to Davos. But it's such a pleasure to talk to you, talk to CSOs, and learn a little bit all the different, let's say, angles and different perspectives on the role. And so let's just dive in, I would say. So
yes,
let's start about. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so. Your role as a Chief Sustainability and Climate Officer at Handelsbanken. Maybe you can first tell us a little bit about the company, so about Handelsbanken.
Of course, yes. So Handelsbanken is a merchant and real estate bank to some extent, but a retail bank as well. We were founded in Sweden some 150 years ago. It's a fairly unique business model in terms it's a very decentralized bank. So if you are a customer with Handelsbanken, you are homestead with a particular local branch office with Handelsbanken, and that branch manager or relationship manager is going to take care of all of your needs. So really sort of collaborating around everything that we have to offer in the bank through that particular relationship. So a very relationshipy kind of a bank, and very, very local and very decentralized, and also with this sort of a very large mandate, I think, and empowerment of our individual employees throughout the bank. So that's a bit special and unique. And we have our home markets in Sweden, Norway, the UK, and the Netherlands, and a large focus within lending on real estate, so mortgages, commercial real estate throughout the bank. So that's us.
And so you work with individuals, corporates, but also with communities themselves, right? Administrations in local communities?
Yes, and I mean the local presence is a very big deal of Handelsbanken's business model. So being a very active part in the local communities obviously makes a lot of sense to us, and which is why the typical Handelsbanken customer isn't necessarily just the large corporates or just the individuals. It's also a large part of small and medium-sized enterprises very locally. So that's the way we do business, very, very close to our customers.
Great. So let's just maybe stay with the company, and you can maybe introduce a couple of initiatives that you're working on right now, just to have a little bit of a snapshot of what is the 9 to 5 job next week, for example. What's on the plate, or what are you working on?
That's such a good question. I mean, sustainability within Handelsbanken obviously is something that's very embedded into our basic cornerstones of banking business. So that would be lending. It's also asset management and savings, and then transactions, and then being sustainable in ourselves, obviously being a sustainable employer and all of that. So a lot of the business development and a lot of what we do is with our customers. And I know that is, I think that's a common thing for many large corporations, that we work through our customers. And on the climate side, our scope 3, if you will. But that's particularly present in Handelsbanken's business, because obviously everything that we do and the sustainable sort of transition of Handelsbanken is equal to the sustainable transition that we manage to do with our customers and for our customers. And then on top of that, I mean, I guess imagine a company that manufactures and sells a product. We need to, of course, make sure that what we sell is very sustainable, but then imagine on top of that, you need to make sure that the customer that is purchasing that product is also sustainable and taking quite a large responsibility for what it is they use our product for. And our product at the end of the day is money. So it's very generic. So that makes for a very interesting sort of dimensional task in engaging with our customers, how sustainable they are, what they use our borrowings for. And when we get the benefit, obviously, and are trusted with our customers' money in asset management, what do we invest their funds in, for instance, our fund companies? So one of the projects that's going on right now is very much on the focus of small and medium-sized companies and helping them to get a grasp of their sustainable risks and opportunities. So a lot of sort of digital tools that we're working on for the small and medium-sized company to either, account for their emissions. So make a sort of rudimentary emissions, carbon accounting reporting that they can use when facing their customers and also to use when facing their financial stakeholders, so us and others. So a few digital tools to sort of help the broad market, because we think that this is something that's quite underserved, helping customers in a risk aspect.
Now, you mentioned that, let's say, there was also there's a banking part, the lending part, and I think that was part of your career, right? So how did you land in your role? I think you started in the bank already more on the finance part rather than now in the climate and sustainability part. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? So where do you come from? What did you learn? How did you get to where you are right now? Who am you? Who are you?
Who are you? Yes, that's an excellent question. And I did slide into this to some extent because I did join the bank. It's almost 12 years ago from private practice legal work. So I came from a law firm. So I'm a lawyer by training, and I came to the debt capital market. So as part of the investment bank within the bank, working with lending transactions basically. So I'm a transactional person. And then I headed the legal team within debt capital markets for a couple of years. And then I sort of slided into what then turned into a team that we had for sustainable finance. So helping the bank's large corporate customers with green bonds, green loans for everything from sustainable forestry to environmentally friendly and energy efficient buildings to electric mobility and everything in between. And sustainability linked lending. But I was still, in the climate finance transaction customer facing side of the bank. And then the opportunity came along that the bank was looking for a new group head of sustainability. So I sort of I raised my hand for that one. I'm very happy that I did, because now I am leading an amazing team of a number of very talented and passionate people within sustainability for the bank as a whole. So now it's also investments and the other dimensions of banking that were new to me at that point.
Awesome. Congratulations to slide into that role. Fantastic. Now, within your a couple of years of time in your company, what would you say was maybe some of the biggest achievements or biggest achievements so far that you're proud of?
Well, sustainability integration in any large company is no one-man show. So I'm not sure if any of the achievements that the bank has done over the last 5 years has been mine alone or even my team's alone. So this is very much an orchestra in play. But we are very much proud of, and I think that what we have contributed is helping to contribute a logic or a why, if you will, that we need to develop things, and what would the next step of business development look like. What is it that we need to do next? What do we prioritize in this very broad field of things to do? And for that matter, what do we not prioritize? Because that is equally important to decide what not to do at this point in time. And sometimes that's a little bit of translating science into business, and sometimes it's sitting together with the business development and products and services of the bank and deciding what is it that we need to bring to our customers to lower their risks and to lower our risks. So it's I didn't have the particular enticing story of one single achievement, but it's an ongoing work by my team and the extended sustainability team of the bank in advancing this a little bit every day. Yeah. I'd say.
And I think the bank itself has a pretty ambitious net zero goal. Do you have the number in your head?
Yes, I mean we have a net zero target or net zero goal for 2040. And then we have individual sort of broken down targets for the near term, for 2030, for real estate lending, for instance, in halving emissions for those particular sectors. But it has a lot to do, obviously, with both the geography. If we look to Handelsbanken's home markets, we do have a quite favorable energy mix in many of our home markets, particularly in Sweden. And the real estate market also, as a starting point, is one of the high emitting sectors, no doubt about that. But it's not one of the most hard to abate sectors out there after all. So our net zero journey wasn't necessarily, wanting to cross the finishing line before anyone else. It's just a depiction of this is what our portfolio looks like. So this is what 1.5 degrees as a limit would look like when you look at our particular portfolio. So that was the stance that we took. We really want to lean in to be sure that it's a 1.5 degree aligned strategy and goal.
Maybe let's look at other challenges. So what was maybe some of the challenges that you had to face in your career so far, or in the role for the CSO? And for example, as a trained lawyer, legal person, is there something that you had to learn and say, that is like thin ice here. I have to really kind of read some books or talk to some people. Talk a little bit about uphill battles.
Yes. There have been plenty. No, I'm kidding. No, it's actually, I wouldn't call it a challenge, but just as you alluded to, there have been plenty of things that you do learn in this particular role. And I thought that I knew the bank and its business fairly well from all of my years within debt capital markets. But as it turns out, and that's one of the many benefits of working with the sort of the cross function of sustainability, is you do learn about a whole new range of parts of the bank's business. Everything from credit process to risk and compliance and legal and strategy and communication. Sustainability really transcends all of those parts. So and that is challenging, of course. I mean, even if I came from the business, you rarely know all parts of the business. So either you surround yourself with or get to know a lot of people that know the different parts of the business well. And the rest of that is actually sort of learning up on what the rest of the business does. Because in order to represent sustainability in all of those different buckets and aspects of the business, you need to get to know them. That's a journey in itself, obviously.
How do you see, let's say, the role in general of the CSO evolve maybe over the next couple of years? Seeing where you come from and where, what is on the horizon there?
I think that's such a good question. And I'm a bit back and forth on this myself. I remember maybe 3 or so years back, we typically said within my team that the day that we have made sustainability so well embedded and well integrated everywhere, that is mission accomplished for us. And then we can go home or we can do something else. Yeah. And I always thought that perhaps this would now morph into instead being a subject matter expertise again, whilst at the present time, obviously, it has a lot to do with change, to be a change agent of sorts. But then I changed my mind again, because then came the sort of massive wave of regulation, and we saw, well, this is going to be an ever-present sort of embedding of the new dimensions of sustainability. So I don't know. I think that it might be that this is just like, instead of seeing that when the dust settles on what all the regulation is going to mean for European business, at least, that this is going to go back to subject matter expertise and just someone with a forward-looking surveillance on what will the future bring, that this is more likely to be perhaps like digitalization. You're never ready or never finished with that. The sort of an ever-present development. And this might be the same, but that remains to be seen, I guess.
All right. Yeah, no, it makes totally sense. But if you, let's say, look at the characteristics maybe of the role, what do you think some of the skills, some of the leadership characteristics basically should be present in somebody who is a CSO or leader in sustainability?
I think, it was several things, obviously, and there are different ways to do this. But I think it doesn't hurt if you have a decent amount of curiosity, and you need to kind of like the fact that you might be challenging things, to be challenged, being open to the possibility that you're wrong, creating a good environment for other people to be wrong, and to like to co-create things together with others. I think that's important. To some extent, I guess diplomacy also, and you need to like to work with people, because at least at this stage of what sustainability is for a large corporation, there's a lot of embedding, there's a lot of trial and error. And there's a lot of, business development going on, and you need to be able to sort of both celebrate internal successes together, but you also need to be able to share those tales of failure and sort of dust off and get on with it and try something else.
What comes to mind is that something you just said is, you have to communicate, but so you're communicating with, executives, board level, advisory board, supervisory boards, even then your own colleagues in the team and everybody in, I don't know, somebody in London or in Holland, in the Netherlands, says, hey, headquarter, I have a question. Somebody wants something from me. So how are you actually reporting to executive board member? Are you part of the board? How is that? How are you situated?
Yes, which is also, the eternal question. What is the ideal way to organize sustainability? Yeah. Well, in our case, being the decentralized sort of kind of vehicle that Handelsbanken is, we have also a decentralized way of working with sustainability. So I have my direct reports, but that's, a fairly small team. And then sustainability is embedded throughout all of the business functions and all of our home markets. And I myself report to CEO, and I sit on the executive management team of the bank, which I think is something that I credit to our CEO at the time, who sort of identified that this needs to sit with our discussions on business planning and strategy. But then from there, it doesn't. I think it's important to see in a decentralized organization also that since I don't have a lot of direct reports, that we need to build a lot of both formally convened, obviously, formats and platforms for sustainability professionals. But also, I think it's very powerful with a bit more loosely structured organizational parts, because those are enormously powerful. And if you do manage to give everyone the sense of we're doing this together as a sustainability community within the bank, and not only the sustainability professionals, but all other colleagues working on this throughout the bank, that this is something that we're doing together, which transcends to some extent other organizational structures. That is very, very powerful. Not only is it a lovely business, working environment for everyone because it's more inclusive, but it gives everyone the sense, where are we going exactly? What does good look like? And, we're doing this, as a bank together. But that it entails a lot of, relationship building with a lot of people. And it's a loose structure again, but I definitely think that's the way to go in terms of organization.
Let's say maybe just to understand, today somebody in marketing could say, look, I have this fantastic flyer and you all cringe. This could be greenwashing in, professional terms. Then let's say the report has to be done end of the year. I don't know, is that something your department does, or do you work with people in the CFO office and maybe legal people who say, hey, if you collect the data like this and this is how you structure it, we can help you and assist you. And then there's somebody maybe in the investment side saying, hey, I have this amazing opportunity, 18% per day, I don't know what. And you're like, no, sorry, we don't touch this anymore. So how does it really, work? Is it more you meet everybody once a quarter and then there's a governance structure, or is it like the phone rings and it's 15 different questions in different dimensions? How can I think about this?
Yes, you would think that there is a simple answer to that. So this is how we do it. But to be frank, I think it's on a case by case situation. So I think, the starting point, it's a really good idea to get to know the organization really well. So I spent the first 2 years or so of my role as the group head of sustainability saying no to nothing. So as anytime anyone would say, come speak at our meeting, or come speak to our management, or participate in our business planning, I said yes to everything, just in order to engage with as many as possible and get that very practical first tier feedback loop going. So once that is established, I worked too much my first 2 years and I didn't sleep that much, but I'm very glad I did that, because the foundation of then having my team very well connected to the rest of the business makes that somehow work, because people will let you know if they find we have a sustainability issue here, we have a sustainability opportunity here. We want to sort of discuss that with you. Is that a good idea or isn't it? But then again, coming back to the cultural aspect, I think it's fairly important to make everybody get the sense that this is not so complicated, that it's a very particular subject matter expertise that we need to leave with this particular group within the bank. We can do it together. And that requires, obviously, from my team to lose some of the jargon and some of the abbreviations and the special sort of sustainability lingo, to give everybody the sense that we are learning as we go along. And there isn't necessarily a right and wrong, so we need to have discussions about many of the examples that you gave examples of.
So, okay, we established this is very complex. This is orchestrating across all of the boards. But and you said you don't sleep, or you didn't sleep so much in the first 2 years now.
Yeah.
You do now, and when you wake up in the morning, so what are you really looking forward to? What is something that's like, you know what, this is fun, there's a fun part, and this is really cool about this role?
Well, one thing obviously that is fun, I've said it already, but I do have an amazing team. So it's a great group of people, really generous with what they know, very skilled, very talented, and it's a lovely working environment. And then the extended team, we do have a lot of people throughout the bank and a lot of amazing people working on sustainability from their particular dimensions. And it is a thrill to work with all of them. And then the next part is sustainability and, climate change are enormously challenging, obviously. So we do get to certain days where we get more of a doom and gloom situation. How do we bring this to our customers in a way that's actually value adding for them and that makes sense? But that's also the part that is a little bit thrilling about it, I guess, because we have all of these hundreds of thousands of customers. We have an enormously important role to play in sort of making sure that they don't have sustainability risks and make sure that they seize their sustainability opportunities. And doing that no one has really done climate transition before. We don't have the sort of manual for how this is done for Handelsbanken. So that is exciting. And we do learn a lot every day. I mean, all of these dimensions are, it's both very broad and it's also a rabbit hole of details. So this could be, the area that you never stop learning also.
There was one field, we had a conversation a while ago. I think we touched upon biodiversity, and yes. That is a topic for you or banks, finance institutes, instruments. Right. Let's say if you just look at it, has nothing to do with nature, so to say. It's money going back and forth. You go to your ATM and that's it. It's more or less plastic. But biodiversity is so important and has a lot to do with everybody. And banking has a certain role also with instruments, green bonds, and so on. Can you give us a little bit of your perspective on biodiversity and if that's the big unknown, or you already are quite deep into it? What's your take on that?
I think, as you alluded to, biodiversity loss is at least as important as climate change, but yet it's so much less mature because, just as you said, businesses in general, unless they're in forestry and agriculture or perhaps mining, it might not be front of mind what kind of a biodiversity dependency or impact it is that a company has. So that, coming back to the bank's role, it's an important role in just showcasing that somewhere along any company's value chain, there is biodiversity dependency and impact. And it's regardless of whether if you're in, consumer staples or food or clothing or building and construction, all of these materials require ecosystem services of some sort or nature-related resources. And to that extent, it is an embedded risk. And I know that many central banks out there have also sort of started to see that these could turn into system risks as well within the financial sector, which is why this is something that is now turning more heads than before, that biodiversity loss is just like climate change, something that can turn into financial risk, both transitional and physical. So this is why we have a keen interest in that. But again, as a person, that is also something that I think is it applies to all of us. I mean, biodiversity loss is something that can't be neglected.
Last question about, let's say, the banking finance sector. What do you think is maybe one of the biggest challenge in the transition to a more sustainable model? What can the banks, finance industry basically play, and what is a big thing to overcome?
Well, a big challenge, obviously, again, is since this transition has to do with transitioning customers and getting customers sort of safely to the other side of the climate or the green transition, it's about, handling a lot of companies. And that is, I think, the challenge, to bring something that is tailor-made and bespoke and relevant and adds value to each customer so that, on an aggregated portfolio basis, that we sort of bring everyone slowly but surely along in the green transition. That is an enormous task, obviously. So I mean, we're very dependent on policy and also the market. Market turndowns and interest rate hikes and inflation. They certainly don't help when you need customers to invest in these kind of things. So we do need to work in sync with the rest of the market and also our peers. And also policy making. So that's a big challenge, obviously. But there's a lot of hope for it, and we do see a lot of momentum also when it comes to particularly energy efficiency, which we're very interested in as a real estate bank.
Yeah. Okay, energy, biodiversity, legal things, talking with everybody. Let's say a young person, if you're just, let's say at university or maybe just finished and say, yeah, I want to do impact. And of course, I go a year to Africa and work as an NGO, and then maybe I stay there. What would you tell somebody to look at, working within the corporate world, which maybe is not at the first time appealing to somebody who wants to make a difference. But obviously you show us that you can, if you are in the right setting with the right team. So what would you say to somebody maybe younger looking into career ideas, changes and journeys?
Well, obviously I'm going to say banking, aren't I? Because I do very much think you wouldn't think, because we don't have chimneys, we don't have a large fleet of cars, and we don't manufacture anything in particular. But if you're interested in sort of system transition and transition on a large scale, and doing what you can with your particular handprint and footprint in terms of your customer base to help many corporations out there, banking is enormously interesting. I would say if you are a talented person out there, you go for banking. And if I have to mention something else, I think it's not a bad idea to move around a little bit. So if you do perhaps work within an NGO for a couple of years, it's also interesting to work in a large corporation for a couple of years. And then again, if you find that be it working within public service or municipality, enormously interesting with cities and municipalities as well. So we need plenty of people everywhere.
So when they look at this role and look into banking or a corporate job, what would you say if somebody starts also new? What is maybe some of the important things they should keep in mind getting into this role? Yes,
I think it's important to get to know the business. We touched upon that before. So if you're not from the business, do get to know the business. That's very important. And also make sure to sort of lean in to all of the parts of the business that you're working with, because it's likely that you're going to learn a lot and need a lot of reiterations of the plans that you have. So just, fostering a good, discourse culture for having those kinds of conversations is going to be enormously important.
I very much enjoyed our conversation, and thank you so much for being with us here on the podcast. And if anybody wants to know a little bit more about the background and the story of Catharina, please check out her story and her essay in the leadership book. And thank you so much. It has been fun and so short right away, having a really good conversation. Thank you so much, Catharina.
Thank you, Harald. Likewise, it was great to speak to you.